U.S. Hysteria. Mark Twain once wrote, "History doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes." And this poem is about those times. Class is now in session as we study the Emancipation Proclamation. Slaves no longer trying to escape in the middle of the night. Freedom granted, their God given right. But excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself. For it all started thousands of years ago, Asian tribes leaving their nest, migrating across an icy land bridge headed west. Many moons later, the race began. Populate the new land, ships making trips again and again. Settlers in America established colonial life. Man's main goal: own a small business or a farm and find yourself a wife. King George taxing us for everything, unable to let us be. So we cried out, in that case, we want to be free. So we fought the unbeatable foe in the American Revolution. No turning back now. Fight for freedom, our only resolution. In Boston, a stance was taken. The massacre occurred, but their lives would not be forsaken. The Boston Tea Party was a protest of our frustration. Disguised as natives, boarded their ships, dumped the tea, and created a situation. Outmanned, outtrained, outarmed, a rebellion seemed like insanity, but George Washington and company fought well. Freedom, God's gift to humanity. Good old glory waved in the air, a new nation established on freedom, respect, and being fair. But freedom would not be had by all, and this truth had to be told. Skin complexion determined if a person would be traded or sold. Slavery, a dark moment in our history's past, but like all oppression, forever it would not last. The Underground Railroad, slaves longing for freedom, traveling in the mist of the night. Harriet Tubman, a heroic figure who risked her own life for this very fight. North and South in this issue couldn't agree, and tempers soar, till finally giving way to our own Civil War. President Lincoln was smacked in the middle of this division, but war once again united the nation. Abe made the right decision. Once the dust was settled, one people, one flag, one nation, but up ahead was still a lot of building and devastation. The East Coast is where it was at, but stories of gold and opportunities spread as people began to chat. Western expansion, fueled by the gold rush, was on. The days of Native Americans roaming the open fields would soon be gone. Years later, World War II became our crown jewel as a nation. The USA, savior of the world, was officially a creation. Oh, I forgot, there was also World War I, and that one we also won. But back to World War II, an attack to a military base in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii by Japan. The US would soon retaliate, message sent, messing with the US, not a good plan. So Truman gave the order, and in Hiroshima the atomic bomb was dropped. A death cloud rose high in the air. The voices of adults and children cried out in despair. Germany loses. Hitler ends his life like a coward, no longer seen as a champ. Allied soldiers, liberators, celebrating but shocked at the discovery of a concentration camp. Japanese Americans back home being detained, property and freedom lost. Racism raised to new heights. Ironic how our citizens suffer as we fought for foreigners' civil rights. Men became soldiers, and women filled the void in the workforce in those days. Men returned, but many women decided to move on from the old ways. A man should not be judged by the color of his skin, but by the content of his character. Martin Luther King Jr. And today we are closer to this truth is quite evident, because in 2008 we selected our first black president. Many great and sad events in our history I do not have time to share, So to fill those gaps, unto you I put forth this new dare. Read history, love history, share history, and by studying the past, the future will become less of a mystery.